Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of Angela Watson's Truth for Teachers. I'm your host, Angela Watson, and I'm here to speak life, encouragement, and truth into the minds and hearts of educators and get you energized for the week ahead. Today, I'm going to share some thoughts on 7 beliefs about teaching routines that will cause you to lose your mind, and how to replace those beliefs with healthier, more accurate thinking. Visit truthforteachers.com to get the transcript, links to recommended resources, and to share your thoughts on the show. So the beginning of the school year is super exhausting. There's no doubt about that. And part of the reason why is because our days are filled with teaching students our expectations for every single thing. We have to teach them how we want them to head their papers, how we want them to line up, how we want them to keep their desks organized, how to solve conflicts with peers, and so on. It's a lot, and it's exhausting. And in fact, the 97th time that you've reminded kids to put your name on your paper, you might feel like you're about to lose your mind. Chances are good that your frustration is stemming from one or more of 7 mental traps, 7 beliefs about teaching routines that are interfering with your ability to do it without frustration. Once you identify and root out these unhealthy, unproductive thoughts, you'll find the process of teaching routines a lot less annoying and a lot more enjoyable. Repeating yourself over and over again can be frustrating, but remind yourself this is a normal part of teaching kids. Your college courses and curriculum guides and even your school district might lead you to believe that your job is just to teach reading or math or history. And they might also insinuate that if you teach something really well, the kids are going to remember it right away and they're going to internalize it. But it doesn't always work that way. Repeating yourself over and over again is part of the job of being a teacher or a parent or anyone else who works with young children. So if you have this deep-seated belief that teaching routines is not part of your job, or repeating yourself is not part of your job, that's going to create frustration. Don't stress yourself out by worrying that you're wasting class time teaching kids how to keep track of their belongings and how to organize homework. These are really valuable skills that are essential to student success. And it is part of your job to teach students how you want them to do those things in your classroom. Now, keep in mind that a lot of the expectations that we have for kids in the classroom are not expectations that they've heard before. Sometimes we believe that kids should just get these things right away. But the truth is, we don't do things the same way that kids do them at home. And we don't do things in our classrooms the way that their previous year's teachers did them. It really does take a lot of unlearning and relearning and repetition and practice for kids to internalize our expectations. So avoid that trap of thinking that students should get this by now. Those shoulds and supposed tos are the thoughts that kill our joy in the classroom. The shoulds and the supposed tos create frustration in situations that are actually very normal and situations that are to be expected because we believe that they should be differently. When you feel those shoulds rising up in you, remind yourself, no, actually, students shouldn't walk quietly in a straight line without any reminders every single day, every single time we go somewhere, just because we practice it during the first week of school. They're children. And they're children who have been sitting a lot, and children who have been concentrating a lot on really hard skills. And they're children whose favorite thing about school is the chance to talk to their friends. And now here they are, leaving the classroom that they just sat in for 2 hours and wore themselves out mentally, trying to stay focused and on task and processing new things and struggling not to be disengaged for even 3 seconds because they'll get fussed at for daydreaming if they get disengaged for 3 seconds. And now they're 2 inches away from their very favorite person in the whole world, that friend that they didn't get to talk to all morning. And they do the most natural thing in the world to do when walking with someone, which is to talk to them, and we explode. How many times have I told you, no talking in the hallway? What an incorrect belief that we hold, that the things that we're asking of kids are easy. I mean, I expect some degree of quiet in the hallway. I don't tolerate a chaotic line or students running and disturbing kids in classes that are trying to work. But I do try to remember what I'm asking kids to do is a simple thing, but it is hard. I mean, look what we as teachers do, right? What's the first thing we do when we're all together in a meeting? We talk. We have off-topic conversations to the whole PD. Anytime we get a chance to talk during a staff meeting, we do it. We're checking our phones. We're tuning out. We're daydreaming about things that are important to us. We're making lists of things we need to do later. We're in our own worlds. It's really difficult to exercise the self-discipline that's needed to sit through a lecture or a lesson and really learn and concentrate. So, while I don't believe in giving kids a free pass and just letting them run wild, I do try to remind myself of these things when I'm tempted to get frustrated, or when I start to believe the lie that students should be on task and should be following directions 100% of the time. No one is on task and following directions 100% of the time. So I can choose to get mad that my students aren't superhuman and aren't in possession of the willpower and self-discipline that I myself can't consistently demonstrate. Or I can take a deep breath and get a little bit of perspective and respond calmly and constructively. When kids don't follow the routine or expectation of the way that you've taught them, practice procedures, not punishment. A lot of times we believe the lie that kids who aren't following procedures are being disrespectful. But most of the time, they're not being willfully disobedient. It's nothing personal against us. They either don't have the procedure practiced so well and so firmly embedded in their minds that they do it automatically. You know, kind of like brushing your teeth when you first wake up. We want it to get that automatic for them, and it's just not there yet. Or they don't have the self-discipline to force themselves to do something that comes so unnatural to them, and something that's so difficult to put into place 7 hours a day. So always default to practicing procedures first. Set kids up to be successful. Don't set them up to fail and to be caught and to be punished. Most kids will choose to be successful when they're given the support to do so. Also avoid the trap of believing that it's obvious what kids are supposed to do, and that kids who have been in school for a few years should automatically know basic procedures. You know how this goes. We say things to them like, "You're second graders, you should know better than to call out. You're fifth graders, you should know how to keep your desk clean." Here's the thing we forget. A lot of the expectations we have for kids in the classroom are not expectations that they've heard before. What we expect in school is not the same things that kids are expected to do at home. Some kids aren't required to keep their rooms clean. They don't have to pick up after themselves. So if they haven't been trained to do that, and especially if they have parents who are disorganized, how would that child know how to organize a desk? They've never been taught how to do it. They've never been taught why it's important. And you can't assume that the previous year's teachers taught that skill. Some teachers don't require kids to keep their desks clean. Or more importantly, they don't show them exactly what they mean by a clean desk. They don't train their students to get quiet when the intercom comes on so that no one misses an important announcement. They just yell, "Stop talking," or they don't ever teach or practice or reinforce the procedure. The first time that you teach your students how to wait quietly and patiently for their turn to use the water fountain might literally be the first time they've ever been explicitly taught that skill. And it's certainly going to be the first time they've ever been taught to do that skill the way that you want it done, in your classroom surrounded by this particular group of peers. So be patient, be persistent, be explicit in what you want from kids. Give gentle reminders and lots of opportunities for do-overs so that the expectation becomes ingrained in their minds And they can do the little things like passing in papers without having to expend all this mental energy trying to remember what you want. Most importantly, be mentally prepared to keep this process up all throughout the school year. Sometimes we have the belief that we shouldn't need to teach procedures after the first month. We do that in August or September and then we're done. But we really do have to be prepared to follow up and give more practice opportunities all throughout the school year. That's called ongoing distributed practice. Just like you wouldn't only teach subtraction in September and then never revisit it throughout the year, you're going to plan and distribute your procedure practice throughout the year so that kids don't forget and so that they can apply the skill to new contexts and so that it becomes really, really automatic for them. So those are some beliefs about teaching routines that will cause you to lose your mind if you don't become aware of them and examine them and really root them out to replace them with healthier, more accurate thinking. I also want to share with you 7 steps to teaching any routine or procedure to students. It's actually really simple to teach your expectations and to help kids be successful in meeting them once you understand these 7 steps. So I'm going to share them with you in a free download. Go to my website, thecornerstoneforteachers.com/S2EP02. That stands for Season 2, Episode 2. So it's thecornerstoneforteachers.com/S2EP02. And you can download my free 7 steps for teaching any procedure or routine. So in this download, I'm going to teach you how to form precise expectations and figure out exactly what you want before you teach it to kids, and how to use a variety of signals to facilitate routines. I'll talk about the art of replacing nagging and criticism with performance feedback, and the power of saying, go back and try it again, and getting kids to do that without giving you attitude. And I'll also talk about how to avoid this slow descent into laziness and sloppily done procedures that just seems to happen every year. All of this is in the free download. Just go to thecornerstoneforteachers.com/S2EP2. Here's the takeaway truth I want you to remember this week. Joyce Meyer said, "Patience is not the ability to wait, but the ability to keep a good attitude while waiting." As the new school year begins, keep this in mind and model the patience and perseverance that you want your students to demonstrate. Have a fantastic week. You can do this. And remember, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be worth it. Truth for Teachers is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. For more great podcast recommendations, go to edupodcastnetwork.com. That's edupodcastnetwork.com.